Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys doing great. This is Andre, and today I decided to do something special for you guys. I just did a brand new live training in my private Facebook group, and it's called How to Pick Best Salvage Cars to Buy. And today I'm gonna share this training with you guys. And if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe to our private Facebook group. It's called Salvage Secrets, and I discuss a lot of things about buying and selling salvage cars, how to make money, how to avoid bad deals. The link should be in the description. Make sure you subscribe, and also subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments what you guys want to learn, what else you want me to talk about, and if you have any questions about salvage cars, and I'll be happy to answer them. With that said, let's jump into the training. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Sorry, I'm a little bit late today. Today I'm gonna be talking about something very important that a lot of you guys are asking about, is how to pick the best salvage cars to buy. And I'm gonna be focusing more on from the flipping cars standpoint. So like, if you buy these cars to flip, and make some money. A lot of people in our group, they're actually looking to flip cars and profit. But if you buy the car for yourself, you can still apply the same principles, but it's a little bit easier for you because you don't have to worry about as much about worrying about margins and like to buy cars as cheap as possible. But all this stuff is going to apply to you as well. So basically there's only three main things you have to understand to know which salvage cars are the best to buy. And number one is year, make, and model. Number two is the mileage. And number three is the amount of damage the car has. So let me go over a little bit through all this stuff and explain what I mean. So we'll start first with the year, make, and model, right? So let me kind of erase these two for now. So when you're looking at the year, make, and models, I highly recommend to focus on cars that are 2 to 5 years old. So when we buy salvage cars, the main point of buying a salvage car is basically to save money, right? Or to make as much money as possible. And when the car is 2 to 5 years old, it's the best range to play with to make this work, because most cars depreciate the most in the first 3 years of life, right? So when you buy a brand new car, in 3 years roughly it's going to cost like half of what you pay for it. And it's true for most cars, like most regular cars. I'm not talking about exotic cars or some special type of cars. So when you buy cars 2 to 5 years old, chances are they already took the most depreciation. So basically, if the car was $40,000 brand new, in 2 years it's going to cost roughly like 25, 30,000, right? So some depreciation already took place. And by 5 years old, all the most amount of depreciation already happened. So this is the best opportunity, because when you buy a salvage car, you buy it even cheaper, than it. So let's say we're talking about $40,000 car, right? Let's say after 2 years, it's already like depreciated to $25,000, right? And then it got into an accident or got stolen or flooded, something happened, and now this car depreciates even more. So you're able to buy it. Let's say you paid like $10,000 for it, right? So as you can see, and we're talking about like, this is a new, this is 2 years old. Sorry for my handwriting. And this is also 2 years old, but salvage, right? So as you can see, you're getting like pretty much a brand new car, 2-year-old car that's on the market for 25 grand. You're getting it for like 10 grand. So the car that was originally $40,000, brand new 2 years ago, now you're buying it for 10 grand, which is a great opportunity. So there is a rule, a very important rule that you guys have to know. I call it the 50% rule. So when buying a salvage car, let me actually write it down. 50% rule. So what does it mean? 50% rule. So when buying a salvage car, you always want to try and make sure that it costs you 50% of what the same car with clean title is worth today on the market. So let's say if you're buying a car that's worth $40,000 right now, you should aim to buy a salvage one, and after all the repairs and everything, all the expenses, it should cost you half of that. So it should cost you 20,000. So let's say if the car retails for 40 grand, you should try to get it for $20,000 salvage. Again, that's already including all the repair costs, right? So this is the sweet spot, because from our experience, when you sell in a salvage car, they usually sell anywhere from like 65 to 70% of retail price. So if you buy a $40,000 car for 20 grand with a salvage title, then you should be able to resell it for like 70% of this. So you should be able to resell it roughly for like 70% of this is 28,000. So you should be able to resell it for 25 to 28,000 dollars, right? That's based on our experience, because we sold hundreds and hundreds of salvage cars over the years. And you know, obviously it depends on the car, but generally this is the case. So as you can see, you have $5,000 to $8,000 margin to play with, right? So even if you spend a little more than 50%, right, you still have room, right, to play with. So as you can see, you know, this is the goal. And now to bring us back to why you should focus on 2 to 5 year old cars, right? But it costs the same money to fix old car or new car, roughly the same money, right? I mean, obviously the parts might be a little more expensive, but labor wise, you know, like labor is still going to be the same. It's going to cost you the same money to paint a 95 Volkswagen Jetta as a 2018 Ford Focus. You know, it's going to cost you the same money. I'm just going to illustrate it, right? So what I'm trying to say here is the repair cost is a constant. It stays the same, you know, no matter if you buy an old car or new car. So let's say you found a car that retails for like, you know, like $10,000 on the market with clean title today, right? And again, using the 50% rule to buy a salvage car, for it to make sense, it should cost you like $5,000, right? According to the 50% rule. So basically, you should get this. Imagine how much, and also let's say this car, the salvage car that you're buying, it has some type of damage. Even let's say if it's not a huge amount of damage, let's say it has like $3,000 worth of damage, right? Or like, you know, let's say $2,000 for like $2,000 damage. So now don't forget also about the auction fees, about the transportation costs, about the paperwork, right? So how much should you pay for this car at the auction for it to cost you $5 grand after all the repairs, all the expenses, all the auction fees and everything? You know, you should pay like $1,500 probably for it to make sense, right? So the thing is the chances are very, very slim, you know, because again, another thing that you need to remember, most salvage cars, you know, the insurance companies, they know the numbers, they know the prices, they know how much they can sell this car for, and they usually aim to get anywhere from at least 20 to 30% or more for their salvage cars. So let's say if the car is on the market is for 10,000, no matter what condition it's in, like how much damage it has, once it's salvaged, the insurance company is going to want to get at least 20 to 30% off for that car at the auction. So they're going to be aiming to get like $2,000-$3,000 at least, and they usually get it in very rare exceptions, you know. And sometimes they get as much as 50%. Let's say if the car is flat and doesn't have any body damage, they might get like $5,000 for this car. And again, it's based on experience, you know, because I bought a lot of cars. So what happens is there is no chance you're going to be able to buy the car for $1,500 for you, again, to get to this number, right, with the repairs and everything. And again, another problem with older cars is that, you know, usually they have higher mileage, right, and they're older. So with age come other problems, not only the damage that you see, but, you know, if the car is high mileage, chances are it's going to have engine problems, transmission problems, suspension, might need some maintenance, some work, you know, that you don't know about. So basically you expose yourself to too much risk, unnecessary risk, you know, that you don't need to take. Let's take a $40,000 car. Let's say you buy like a 2-year-old Jeep Grand Cherokee that's like fully loaded, and it's like $40,000, right, on the market. Now, according to the 50% rule, you should aim to get it for like $20,000 after all the repairs and damages, right? And you should be able to sell it for like I wrote earlier, for anywhere from $25,000 to $28,000. Sell, buy, salvage, and this is retail. All right, so as you can see, let's say it also has the same $3,000, or let's say it has even more damage than the previous car. Let's say it has $5,000 worth of damage, right? Let's say $5,000 damage. I'll write it here, right? So now let's say another $1,000 in auction fees, transportation costs, stuff like that. So let's say it's $6,000, right? $5,000 damage plus $1,000 in expenses. So you can afford to pay as much as $14,000 for this car at the auction. So basically 20 minus 6 equals 14, right? So you can pay $14,000 for this car, invest another $6,000, and it's going to cost you $20,000, and you can resell it for $25,000 to $28,000. And again, you're buying a car that's like has low mileage, pretty much brand new, so you're not going to have any problems. And there's going to be a lot of people who want to buy this car because they would rather pay $25,000 to $28,000 for, you know, for the same car that retails for $40,000. So they understand, wow, I'm saving $15,000, right? Versus, let's say if you try to sell the previous car, right, that let's say it costs you, it retails, let's say, for $10,000 with clean title, right? It costs you $6,000 after all the repairs and everything, and now you're trying to sell it for like $7,000. So you only have like $1,000 margin, first of all. Second, you know, people are thinking like, wow, this guy is selling this car with a salvage title for like $7,000 when I can go and buy a clean title one for $10,000. You know, now they might think like, why would I do that? You know, it doesn't make any sense. So as you can see, you know, for all these reasons, guys, it's way better. The sweet spot is 2 to 5 year old cars. That's very, very key, you know. And obviously, you know, a lot of you might think like, wow, like that's, you know, that's cool, Andre, but like I can't afford, like, you know, that's a lot of money, you know. And you'll be surprised that you actually you'll be able to afford much more of a car because of a salvage title than you possibly thought about. Like, let's say you see this Jeep that retails for $40,000 that you thought like, oh, I'm never going to be able to afford it. Now you're only paying $14,000 for it, you know, which is way less. And that's another cool thing about salvage cars, that actually you can get into much more of a car than you originally thought, you know. And again, if you're just starting out, like I didn't start out buying all these brand new cars, you know. Obviously, when I was just starting out, I didn't want to take as much risk. I didn't want to like get into something that like over my head. So yeah, you can still find older cars, you know, good deals on older cars. and actually make some money on them, you know, because obviously older cars cost less money, and you may be able to find one that's in good condition, low mileage, and you can get it cheap and then flip it quick, because obviously, you know, if you're selling a car with low miles cheap, then people are gonna buy it, and not as many people will care about even about the salvage title. If the car is like 10 years old, nobody cares about the title when you're selling it. They just look at the condition of the car. So those deals still do exist, but again, if you buy an older car, just make sure you get as little damage as possible and as little mileage as possible. The two key things. Don't buy a car that has 120, 130,000 miles, and plus on top of it, it has a salvage title and it has a bunch of problems that you didn't know about when you bought it. That's basically just a waste of time, a waste of money. It doesn't make any sense. All right, so hopefully I covered this. The most important aspect is the year, make, and model, right? Again, make and model. So the year we already covered is 2 to 5 years old is the sweet spot. Now, where's my eraser? Here. Let me just erase this. Now let's talk about the make and model. That's another part of the puzzle. So the interesting thing is not all salvage cars are the same. Some makes and models are actually harder to buy even with the salvage title, because a lot of people want them. So remember, you know, when buying salvage cars at auctions, you are competing basically with the whole world. You are competing with exporters. These are the people who actually buy these cars and send them overseas, fix them over there and sell them. And they have an edge because overseas they don't know what a salvage title is. I mean, some people do know now, but it doesn't mean as much as here. You know, over there people are used to fixing stuff. Even if the car was in an accident, they don't care as much as like here in the United States. And plus another thing is like the labor is way cheaper overseas. So these people can afford to pay way more than you can, because the labor that's going to cost you, let's say in America, $5,000, overseas is going to cost you $1,000 to do the same work. So now they have $4,000 edge over you to buy a car. So from my experience, because I've been buying and selling salvage cars for a really long time, the worst salvage cars to buy and I'm not saying they're the worst cars, they're just the worst salvage cars to buy. It's Toyota, Lexus, some Mercedes models, some models, Toyota and Lexus, right? Everybody knows Toyotas are great cars. Everybody knows they're reliable, they're great, and a lot of people want them, you know. So what happens is these cars at a salvage auction, they sell for like insane amounts of money. Like let's say if you're bidding on a Lexus that's like $40,000 retail, right? It might go for, I would say, $25,000 to $28,000 on the salvage auction, even if it has like minor damage, right? So in the end of the day, if you count the cost of parts, because actually Toyota parts are really expensive, which is a funny part, especially body parts. Toyota and Lexus parts are not cheap, you know. So if you, let's say, let me write it down, like you buy a $40,000 Lexus, right? So that's, let's say that's a retail price with a clean title. You pay $28,000 for a salvage one at the auction, which is like 70%, you know, of the value. And that's how much these cars go for, because a lot of people are looking to buy them, to export them, and this is what happens. They pay insane amounts of money. So that's even before repairs. After you factor in the repairs, it's going to cost you $35,000. So now technically you're still saving $5,000, right? But now you have a car with the salvage title, and you're going to have a really, really tough time to sell it in the United States. Overseas is not a problem, you know, because over there $5,000 is like a lot of money, and some people might go through all the headaches and everything to save $5,000. But in America, if somebody sees the same car on the market with clean title for 40 grand and then the salvage one for 35, 99.9% of the time they're gonna buy the clean title one. So it doesn't make any sense. So again, Toyota and Lexus are really hard cars to buy salvage. We sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get a decent deal. Like right now we have a 2018 Toyota Highlander which was in the flood, but again they're never cheap, so you should expect to pay a lot, and it's very high competition. Mercedes, from luxury brands like Mercedes, it's probably, I don't know why, but for some reason, especially like the C-Class, like later models like 2015, 16, 17, people just pay insane amounts of money for these cars. I don't know why. And it actually true for like most Mercedes models like ML, GL, all those cars. Again, a lot of people are looking to export them. The parts are very expensive, the labor is very expensive, so it's very hard to get a good deal on these cars. So now let's look at the best salvage cars to buy. The best cars to buy. So I would say the best cars are most American cars. American cars are like some of the best deals, because usually you can get them at really good prices. There's not as much competition. Again, it depends obviously on the particular car, but in general, right? And newer American cars are actually pretty good cars. So you have a great opportunity to buy like a newer car with low miles and get a really good deal. Again, there are some exceptions to this, like let's say a Jeep Grand Cherokee, for some reason, like the newer model, like 2015, 16, 17, 18, that body style, still like sells for insane amounts of money at the auction. Like, I don't know why. I guess people love these cars so much that, from all over the world they want these cars. So obviously there are exceptions, but as a general rule, this is the case. And also, luxury cars like BMW, Audi, we buy them all the time actually. And again, some BMW models like are hard to get, like BMW X5. It's a very popular car overseas. But when it comes to like 3 Series, 5 Series models, there's a lot of opportunity to buy those cars cheap. And again, if you're talking about some like special models like M Series, let's say, or some special cars that people want, it gets harder, And from my experience, the Audis are actually a really good cars to buy salvage, because I don't know, maybe people just are scared of them. They think like the parts are expensive, the labor, and it's the case. Actually it costs more to repair an Audi than like a Ford Fusion or Ford Focus. But from the money standpoint, let's say, because these cars are luxury cars, so obviously they cost more money on the market. So the good thing about luxury cars is that you have way more opportunity to save money or to make money, because you can buy, let's say, $60,000 Audi for, let's say, 30 grand, right? So now you're talking about $30,000 savings, which is a lot of money, and you still get to enjoy a really nice premium car. So these cars are actually good. And again, how do you, like, the best thing to do is, if you're interested in a particular model, let's say that you're thinking to buy salvage, just log into the auction and see, like find a few cars and see for yourself, like look at the auctions and look how much these cars sell for, and you'll have an idea, and you'll see the trend, like how much people are paying, and you'll see if a particular car is in high demand, or is it worth buying salvage or not. And if you're not sure, you can ask me and I'll let you know. Hondas actually are not bad cars. We buy a lot of Honda Civics, Honda Accords, Honda Fit and stuff like that. For some reason they're way better than Toyota. And another actually important point to mention while I'm thinking about it, always, it's always a good idea to buy cars that are like not as common. Let's say if you buy a Nissan Altima, right, salvage, there's a lot of Nissan Altimas out there, a lot of them. Like every dealership has 50 Nissan Altimas for sale. So now you're competing with everybody else when trying to sell them. So even though it's a popular car and people like them, but you have to think about from the resale standpoint, like is your listing gonna stand out when you try to sell it? And don't forget, you have a salvage title, right? So when you buy like a really common car, that's like a lot of them, make sure you get a really good deal on it, because that's the only thing that's going to differentiate you from everybody else. You will sell it the cheaper than everybody else with like less miles than anybody else. So it should have some kind of advantage. Let's say either really good miles or really good options. Let's say leather or navigation system or something. So keep that in mind when buying cars. All right, so number one we covered. Number two is the mileage, right? The mileage. So again, we kind of talked about it already, but the point is try to get cars with as little miles as possible. It's very key, because not only they're more desirable when you try to sell them, but also they're gonna have generally less problems than high mileage cars. So when you get into like 100,000 mile cars, chances are, and again there are exceptions to everything, obviously, you understand, like some 100,000 mile cars might be in a better condition than some $40,000 cars, depending on how the person maintained them. But as a general rule, the less miles the better. So we try to stay less than 50,000 miles if possible, right? Obviously sometimes we do get cars with 60,000, 70,000, but like this is a sweet spot, under 50,000 miles. It's always a good idea. And the third but very important part of picking the best salvage cars to buy is the damage. So again, I always talk about this, but I just wanted to reiterate it again. Always try to buy cars with as little damage as possible. So even if you have to pay a little bit more, right? A little bit more, but you get the car with like very little damage, that's always a good idea, because what happens is people always underestimate the costs, the repair costs. They always underestimate how much parts cost, how much labor is going to cost, and what seems on the surface to be like a great deal, let's say you bought it like really cheap, it actually will turn into a nightmare, So as long as you stay in that 50% rule that we were talking about earlier, let's say as long as the car, after all the expenses and repairs and everything, costs you like 50% of the market value or around that range, then you're good. So if you had a choice to buy a car that's going to cost you, let's say 50% of retail price with like little or no damage, or the car that's going to cost you 30% but it has a lot of damage, I would always go with the 50%, because like I said, time and money in repairs is very important, and people underestimate it. So yeah, try to get as little damage as possible. Theft recovered cars are very good to start. Some flat cars, if you know what you're doing, like if you inspect the car and you know what to look for, are really good cars. Sometimes you can find cars with hail damage. Let's say the car had some hail damage, some dents on the body, then you can easily estimate how much stuff is going to cost. Or it has some cosmetic damage, like where you can see exactly what needs to be replaced. Try to stay away from cars with blown airbags. It's very important, because airbags cost a lot of money, and you also have to replace the module, the airbag module. You have to replace the seat belts usually, and it's a lot of work and a lot of money, which people don't think about when buying these cars. That's pretty much it, guys. So when buying salvage cars, the most important things to look for is year, make, and model. So try to stay with 2 to 5 year old cars with as little mileage as possible, obviously. Try to stay away from Toyotas and Lexuses. I'm not saying they're bad cars, but they're very hard to get salvage, and usually you can get better deals elsewhere. And don't forget about the damage. Get cars with as little damage as possible. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can get motivated to make more videos like this. And like I said, let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about salvage cars, about buying and selling cars, or anything in general. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.